Claude-Fable 5 costs twice as much per token as its closest competitors, and 2 of its 5 biggest claims don't hold up. 2 wins, 2 outright fails. That's the honest scorecard on Anthropic's most hyped model right now. Anthropic just dropped Claude-Fable 5 with some pretty bold promises, and people are making real spending decisions based on those claims right now. So I went through vendor docs, community analyses, and independent benchmarks, testing 5 of the biggest claims to see which ones actually hold up. No vendor money, no spin. And honestly, the place where Fable 5 surprised me most wasn't the benchmarks I expected it to win. The thing that's still genuinely up in the air could be the deciding factor for developers, and we won't know until someone runs the actual study. So who's actually on the hook here? Developers picking a model for long-form projects, writers deciding whether to pay the premium, and teams running high-volume API calls where the per-token price adds up fast. Get these claims wrong and you're either overpaying or trusting a model that can't back it up. Claim 1. Fable 5 maintains coherence across 100k plus tokens. If this falls apart, you're mid-project, 80,000 words deep, and the model starts forgetting characters, contradicting itself, and you have to start over. That's hours of wasted work and a real mess to untangle. What I found is actually pretty solid. Community analysis confirmed no degradation from 100k all the way up to 800k tokens, which is the practical working range for most projects, and it holds. The only place things get shaky is at the extreme end of the 1M window, where you do see some context rot, but it degrades gradually, not all at once. Now, take it with a grain of salt here, because the claim says 100k plus, and the model handles that. No problem, but the advertised 1M window isn't fully clean. For most real workflows, you're never hitting 1M tokens anyway, so the gap between the claim and reality is smaller than it sounds. This claim delivers. I was expecting coherence to start slipping somewhere around 500k, and what actually happened is it held clean up to 800k without issues. The 1M ceiling is a partial asterisk, but the core promise checks out. That's one of 1 claims holding up so far. Claim 2, Fable 5 rivals or beats GPT-4 in creative writing. If this is just marketing, you're paying a premium price for prose that's no better than what you already have. And worse, you might not even notice until a reader tells you the voice feels off. What surprised me here is how clean the win was. In a 64 output comparison by Norn, Fable 5 finished ahead of GPT 5.6. Soul in every single genre tested, both raw and with a writing profile applied. A professional writer rated it 4 out of 5, noting polished drafts but some voice preservation issues. Honestly, the 4 out of 5 rating is the real caveat here. It's a clear win on polish and narrative depth, but if you're an author who cares about preserving your own voice, Fable 5 doesn't nail that perfectly. The gap is real, it's just not a deal breaker for most people. This claim delivers too. I was expecting a closer race given how good GPT-class models have gotten, but Fable 5 went ahead in every genre without exception. That's 2 of 2 claims holding up, and the creative writing win is the most concrete, independently verified result in this whole review. Claim 3, Fable 5 costs significantly less per token than competing enterprise AI models. If this is wrong, you're budgeting based on a false premise, and the bill at the end of the month is going to be a real shock when you're running thousands of API calls. Okay, so I pulled the actual pricing sheet, and it's pretty much the opposite of the claim. Fable 5 runs $10 per $1 million input tokens and $50 per million output tokens. Opus 5 is $5.25. GPT 5.5 is $5.30. That makes Fable 5 twice the input cost of both of them. Now there is one caveat worth mentioning. On a complex physics task, Fable 5 used about 1/3 the reasoning tokens of GPT 5.5, which means for heavy reasoning workflows, the total cost might actually balance out. So the per token claim is wrong, but the total cost story is more complicated depending on your use case. This one falls short. I was expecting some nuance in the pricing, but what I got was a flat 2 times more expensive on input tokens, no asterisk. The token efficiency wrinkle is interesting, but it doesn't rescue the claim as stated. That drops us to 2 of 3 claims holding up. Claim 4, Fable 5 handles multi-step reasoning with fewer errors than previous Claude versions. If you can't verify this, you're deploying it on high-stakes logic tasks with no independent data behind it. And a wrong answer in a multi-step chain can quietly break everything downstream. What I found here is basically a wall. Anthropic's documentation talks about improved planning and self-verification, which sounds good, but they don't publish a benchmark showing fewer errors on multi-step logic. Community reports are mixed. Some users say the planning feels better, but nobody has hard numbers to back it up. To be fair, the model is clearly more capable overall than earlier Claude versions, and anecdotally, people do report better sustained reasoning. What's missing is any data on error rates specifically, and there's a big difference between feeling more capable and actually making fewer mistakes in a measurable way. This claim falls short, too. I was expecting at least some community benchmark to surface an error rate comparison, but there's nothing concrete out there. The claim just isn't verifiable right now. That puts us at 2 of 4 claims holding up, and 2 that don't have the data to back them. Claim 5, Fable 5 generates code that needs minimal debugging. If that's not true, developers are switching their whole workflow to a model that still spits out broken code, and debugging time doesn't disappear. It just moves to a different point in the process where it's harder to track. So here's what I found, and honestly, it's a mixed bag. Community reports on human evil are positive, and Anthropic talks up self-testing and vision-based output verification, which sounds promising. But I couldn't find any controlled study measuring actual debugging time before and after. Strong vibes, no hard numbers. This one's partially true, and I'd honestly love to call it a full win, but I can't. Early adopters are happy, and the self-testing design is genuinely interesting, but happiness isn't the same as measured debugging hours. So we close at 2 of 5 claims fully verified, 1 partially true, and 2 that fell short. Alright, so where does Claude-Fable 5 actually shine? Long context work, no question. It holds coherence clean up to 800k tokens, and 100k is a non-issue. And creative writing is a real, verified win, beating GPT 5.6 Soul across every genre in a 64 output test. Those 2 are legit, and here's where it falls short, no softening. The pricing claim is just false. At $10 per million input tokens, it's twice the cost of Opus 5 and GPT 5.5, and the reasoning error claim has 0 independent data behind it. So you're taking that one purely on Anthropic's word. Honestly, I went in expecting more claims to hold up, and 2 fully verified out of 5 is a real mixed result. So here's the decision rule. Need the best long context coherence or creative output? Fable 5 is worth the premium. Doing high volume, cost-sensitive work? Go with Opus 5. $10 per million input tokens. That's the number that decides it.